Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to End All the Things. My name is Michaela, and I'm your coach for the next half hour. And my job is to help tease out from our guests what makes them fabulous and helps them to shine their light so that you and I and the rest of the world can grow in that light. So today's guest, I am very excited about. He is a dear and personal friend of mine, but he is also an inspiration to me as an individual in my community and in my professional life. So let's meet Michael Strouse and all the things. Let's see. Here he comes. Drum roll, please. There he is. Hello,
Hey!
Michael. Hi.
Of course you're on top. Like, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Well, it's I like to shine my light, and right now I'm shining it down on you. How about that?
Okay.
Okay. So welcome, Michael Strouse. Thank you for joining us at And All the Things. We have our Uniquely You founder, Angela DeMarco, in
Hey,
our,
Angela.
yes, hello. Gotta say hello. So, so we are live here on Instagram. And All the Things is all about finding out from people like you and me how they use their divine, that magical gift inside, to grow, change, and serve. So, Michael Strouse, thank you. And tell us a little bit about you, who you are, and all the things.
It's so funny because I was thinking about this and like, basically what we're doing is what we have done in the corner of a movie night at PTO or like over smoothies and just like putting it out on Instagram now.
Pretty
Um,
much. Pretty much. And that's
but
why I did this, because I have so many magical conversations with people, with human beings. And I always say, Michael, we need to be recording this. And today we are. So,
yay!
yay.
So no pressure at all for
No
me.
pressure,
Uh,
truly no pressure. So
so
tell us,
I
who is Michael Strouse?
that you have to start with a really hard question, right? I'm
Mhm.
still trying to find that out. I think that
Awesome.
actually is the first thing to start with for everybody. Is like we're all still trying to find it out.
Mhm.
And
Right.
I've had wonderful people in my life like you who have helped me along that road of discovery. And as we talked this morning, you know, I've I've had so many great, wonderful influences in my life who have brought me to where I am and who I am today.
Mhm.
And I'm always kind of wondering what that next iteration is. And
Wait, are you
that's
saying that as human beings, we're not supposed to remain stagnant and that we're supposed to evolve and supposed to find out who we want to be next?
and that the world around us also doesn't stay stagnant. So
Hmm.
not only are we a species that can grow internally, but we have to grow to meet the needs of the world around us as well.
Yep. And how do
Um,
you do that? My goodness, that sounds like a tall order.
well, so as we were talking earlier today, and
Mhm.
forgive me for jumping back onto that conversation that we had to prep for this, and it is I find myself finding new ways to shine as I see them. Like you walk through life and you get these moments where you either open a door or you walk by it and you don't know what's going on the other side of that door. And I'm curious, and sometimes, you know, I live to regret that curiosity, but like I like to open the door.
Mhm.
And you know, what's on the other side gives you that opportunity to walk through. And you don't always have to do it. You can make that choice not to, but um, as you see those opportunities to let yourself grow, you should walk through.
Agreed. And I think it's important to note that we're all always offered these opportunities, and the doors are always alongside us, in front of us, and around us. But the difference I see in you is as you said, you choose to open the door and walk through. Where whether it's me scrolling through my news feed on social media and saying, "Oh, I don't want to deal with that conversation," it's almost like you choose to step into those. That takes courage. That takes a lot of dedication. And where does that come from? Because where others want to shy away and not face the conversation, the obstacle, the issue, part of me is always like, wait, is Michael going to show up and say something? Because I'd really appreciate that. Right.
Um, I do find myself very deeply rooted in a life of service, and find that comes from, I think it started with a grandfather who, for those of you who are local here, in the Lambertville area, my grandfather was the deacon at the local church. He grew up with 7 kids and was the postmaster in Lambertville, and then once he retired, he basically went to work full time at the church. And while I don't necessarily find myself drawn to that religious aspect of it, I do find myself drawn to what sort of thing can I do to help improve the world? And that's what I watched him wake up to every single day. I watched him get out the door at 6:30 in the morning to run down to unlock the church so that people could go to mass, and then watched him give the sacraments of the sick, and run the food bank. I also watched him serve his family, and in very, very special ways. I was lucky enough to get to eulogize him, and one of the things that I firmly remember, and bring into my marriage, is that he would sit on the couch, and my grandmother had a way about her that sometimes she was a little demanding, and she'd say, "Joey," da, 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 and give him like 5 things that he needed to do, and he would just kind of sit there half dozing off watching soap operas that he pretended not to be watching, and he'd go, "Yes, mother." And that was it. Like, he never actually did the things that she wanted him to do. She continued moving on, but like that, he, instead of saying, "I'm not doing that," he just said, "Yes, mother," and like just kept her very placated. And he would come and pick me up at when I was going to high school a half an hour away. He would show up for me, and I watched him do it for every last one of his grandkids, and in their own unique way. And that's kind of an amazing thing to be able to watch. And it continues. My mom has the patience of a saint. And I watch her kind of show up in her unique way. And also watch my dad, who I've watched on this incredible arc, of understanding and growth. When you talk about growth, that's something that I have to take away from him, and really feel that he was responsive to not only my needs, but like the needs of my kids. And when you look at parenting, which is essentially service, we have to be reactive to that parenting. We have to feel,
to serve the need of the time. Yeah. The thing that's happening right now.
The thing that is always happening right now. It's not just that thing that is right, that we anticipate to be happening. But we kind of reconnected in the parent teacher organization, and I think that is a wonderful thing, and found this bond over our kids.
Yeah.
But
well, because that's where it started, right? Like for you, it started as a kid watching your family's influence on their community. And as you mentioned, you left, right? Lambertville was your home. It was your rock, and you left and you went elsewhere. Coming back, and feel free to share any parts of this, but coming back is never easy, right? I moved back here, and it was a shifty, rocky thing, because it's expectations and fitting into the old way and bringing a new way. Can you tell us about the experience of leaving here and coming home?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely, in the 1990s and early 2000s, growing up in this little tiny small town, was not necessarily the easiest thing for a gay kid. And especially a gay kid who kind of like didn't fit the sports narratives and
Mm-hmm.
didn't quite find his own confidence. But as I said, like that was that was where my seed was planted. And however rocky that soil it was, it was where I was. And I went away to New York City for a bit, and really I got stronger. Like I figured out a little bit more about who I was,
Mm-hmm.
as I continue to grow and grow. That early 20s was a time where I just found much more of
Was it
Michael.
just New York
Um,
City? Like, was it just being in a place with so much opportunity, or were there mentors or experiences that really
there were
got a grip?
there were mentors, but there were also there were freedoms,
Hmm.
and it wasn't just freedoms of like I'm away from home. There was freedoms of expression.
Hmm.
There were others around me who I
Hmm.
could relate to, and that wasn't always
And
something
how
that
important is
was
that?
easy to
Yeah,
find around here. Um,
right. Because that,
and that
like, sorry to interrupt, but that's the important thing. We're hardwired for connection. And when you feel so connected to a place, the soil that upon which you lived and grew up, but also never felt rooted or invited there because you didn't have people that looked, talked, act, thought, believed, ate, whatever like you. And today we're seeing the effects of that, where our society is so afraid of those differences that we're forcing disconnection. So for you to be able to go find connection, even in just the freedom of expression, is incredibly huge. So get back into it. So how did that help guide you home?
So it's actually that connection and that strengthening that kind of did guide me home. And I want to just go back to that metaphor I was saying of like growing up in the rocky soil.
Hmm.
Um, I when we decided that we needed to move back, when my kids were at that point that they'd be going to school, um, this was home. Like this where I live right now was home. And however
Hmm.
rocky that soil, I realized that by replanting myself here, um, I wasn't just doing something for myself. I wasn't just kind of replanting myself and continuing to be the tree. I was also laying down these roots and in that rocky soil and cultivating the soil, breaking up those rocks, really
Hmm.
feeling that I had the ability to find that interconnectedness here
Right.
and make a difference here. However difficult that kind of is,
Hmm.
I made the conscious choice to be who I was, where I grew up, because I needed to be that example that my grandfather, my parents were to me,
Hmm.
to my kids. So both of my kids are multiracial. They are unique in this system here. Like
Hmm.
they stand out,
Yep.
and they have to
They
learn to
stand out
navigate
beautifully,
this.
by the way. They stand out
They
beautifully, but they do stand out, right? And it is a real thing to deal with.
and it's something that I think and I hope, and that's actually what I have to say. It's not that I think, it's I hope that by seeing how both me and my husband,
Hmm.
who also is unique in this area,
Also beautiful.
how we navigate,
Hmm.
that they also are going to learn how to navigate, but it also reverses itself.
Right.
So like there's this, and this is the part that like is the most beautiful thing about having a family. And I'll go back to, I want to rewind at some point, but um
We can
I
keep going all over the place. There's no map
I
for this
it
one.
it is that we know how we roll, so it's all
Hmm.
yeah.
Oh yeah, this is a conversation.
So um so I've watched my kids navigate, and I said, you know
Hmm.
what, I can take away from that too.
Yep.
And while I can help them, they can help me. And indeed, like that's, you talk about experiences that make you who you are. Becoming a dad, like that is
Mm.
that's who, that's so
It's
much
who
of
you
a
are.
part of me, and it has defined me more than anything else. And this is the part I wanted to get back to, is like, let's take a look at 1990s Michael. This part of me wasn't even possible.
I hardly remember that kid. Like, that kid is so long ago and non-existent anymore.
But
Not
like,
that he doesn't matter, but it's a different person. It's a whole different person.
If I had gone back to him and I had said, hey, you know what, like, you're going to be married, you're going to have kids, and, you know, you're going to have this beautiful, beautiful family that you have. 16-year-old, 17-year-old Michael would have been like, you're nuts. Like,
You're
this
crazy.
is, nope, that is not possible.
Yep. Because for those just joining us, right, we're talking about 16, 17-year-old, probably like not really in the closet, out of the closet, don't really know where I am at that point, you know, depending on the community, telling that kid that you're going to move back to a very rural New Jersey quiet town that has made you feel isolated. You're going to come back with your husband and your 2 adopted children, and you are going to be a pioneer in that community, leading the way for change and education and betterment for all. That's incredible. That's incredible. So let me just, like, period, exclamation point, all of that. Because I probably wouldn't have believed it either. That's one of the reasons I moved away. I said, I need space. I need the freedom of expression. And I was your standard girl, right? Like,
but you needed that growth potential. And think about it, like, from who you were at that 16 too.
Oh yeah.
And finding that growth potential. I mean, like, you found your incredibly handsome husband there too. But I mean,
oh, my niece is on. Hi, Julie. Yay.
So that allowed you to also come back and do the same thing. I mean, add.
Thank you.
With confidence and wonder and light and love into our community, and that's like that. Isn't there a
that's
call
the goal
to that somewhere?
Yeah.
Like, there has to be this. You wake up each day and you can either make a difference or you can hide in a hole, or
you can complain about the lack of difference or the lack of whatever it may be. And I agree with you. I mean, you and I reconnected over PTO and kindergarten stuff with our kids, right? And that was wonderful. It's like, oh, I know this guy, I remember him, but it was getting to know you all over again. And I appreciated that because I wanted to be seen all over again for the new version of me too, right? I wasn't the same person I was when I left. And I have found that, and we know this, right? We're the sum of the people we spend the most of our time with. And I know that my life, that the actions I take, that the motivation I have to be a better person in my community is very related to my relationship with you. I believe wholeheartedly that we have to stick together in these ways to continue shining the light. So when we go to board meetings and everyone's angry and crazy, I rest well that I have you there with me, and we're going to speak up and we're going to advocate on something, you know, positive, and not just in the like throwing glitter at things, but great, now what can we do about that? How do we find a solution? How do we move this forward for the betterment of the people?
It's also about adding perspective. And I find that's one thing that I get from you so much is when we have those conversations that you have a different perspective. And you know, if we really want to like blow this out of the water, is how many of us are open to other perspectives at this point? Like, how many of us actually like listen instead of just want to like blast out what they want to say? And again, at Board of Ed meetings, like, we all know that you get on that podium and is that, are you listening? Like, and if you are in the audience, are you actually listening to that person at the podium? And if you are, you then have the ability to offer that perspective. You then can say, you know what, I hear what you're saying.
Correct.
But here's the way that I'm looking at this. And you can do it respectfully and not in a way that is argumentative. And we find I find so often that we do stop listening. And when we have a conversation, it's
I'm sorry,
always
what?
like,
No, what? What?
it's always that we get like, we both bring this bit of ourselves to it that
Well, you know,
we imbue into the other.
right. And I think that's what it is. We're both, neither of us are really committed to being right? In the work I do, you say I have this perspective. I do. But I do not know what the right perspective is for you. I cannot tell you how to think, feel, act, behave. All I can do is, I don't know, enhance your perspective to make a good decision, right? So when you and I talk, whether we're talking to each other or with other people, I'm curious. I genuinely want to know what you're saying and thinking, because I'd like to form my own opinion, do my own research, and then come up with something that's authentic to me. You know? Just stay curious.
It is that curiosity, and it's those questions that actually, I think, do more. And somebody said to me, or apologized earlier today, I was teaching a class, they apologized to me and said, I'm asking so many questions. Why? Like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, don't be sorry. Like, this is why we come. Like, this is the essence of connection here. Like, I have an 11-year-old who, like, she asks me questions, like, I have no idea where they come from. And I half the time have to answer in a question so that I can answer her original question. And that's kind of beautiful, because that's the discovery and that's the experience. Like, that means we're open. And if we just keep making statements,
right,
we're closed.
Well, and at the end of the day, what do we want, right? Or whether it's for our kids, our community, we want people to think and to trust themselves and to be able to make good decisions. So when I look at my kids, and I'm going to say I've screwed this up 7 times over, right? Like, there's no perfection here in my parenting, but what I'm learning is I want them, now that they're getting older, I want them to be able to trust their voice, right? When my daughter says, I don't want to eat that for dinner, okay, yes, sometimes it's, well, this is what we have, suck it up, buttercup. But she has learned things that her body likes and her body doesn't like. And it's my job to help her trust that. So when she's 16 years old and figuring out what to do with life, what to do with dating, what to do with a career, she knows that that voice inside is her own and she can trust it. And if all I'm ever doing is telling her what to do, how to think, how to behave, how to move, she's never going to be able to trust that. And then we become adults that don't know how to trust their voice and their feelings to be able to say, to advocate for themselves, whether it's at a board meeting or in a career or in a relationship. And I think we miss that a lot. And that's one of the things that I have seen from you very much, is how you see the light in the kids, you see the light in the adults, and you're willing to wait for them to see it a little too. Like, you've got the patience to say, I hear you over there with your frustration, your anger, your whatever. I'm going to stand here and I'm just going to nicely say, here's what I think you might want to consider. And then it undoubtedly, because you're not angry, you're not creating turmoil, it makes people listen more. At least that's what I see.
So one of the biggest nightmares, and I think one of the biggest joys that I've always had at the PTO is the movie nights. And it's always like 6 adults versus like way too many kids. And there's always some sort of drama. And our unique little school has this wonderful little tiny like hallway that, like, you go down the main hallway and then you just turn at the nurse's office, and you can't be seen there. Like, it's a semi-private space, and you can just pop down on the floor, and whenever there's a kid who like has that little extra drama, that's kind of like a perfect. I hate what brings me to generally having those like little sit down moments of like, let's calm down, let's get there. But like, I love what happens there, because the kids just can kind of say, well, you just like, and they articulate it. And they,
yes,
like,
and wouldn't it be great if we could do that as adults? Like, get it out, say our feelings, and like, okay, let me gain some perspective and let me kind of see what to do with that feeling now. Wouldn't that be great?
Well, acknowledging a feeling, and I
Yes.
do feel like we so often kind of like as adults
Mm-hmm.
tell ourselves not to have feelings, and kids translate that too. So when we give them permission to have feelings,
Yep.
and then kind of like open it up and ask them questions about that feelings and let them explore a little bit, and then let them explore how they better could have handled something while they're having that conversation. It's
I
a
mean,
safe
listen,
space.
yeah.
um, and anyway, that little that I'm coming off of a movie night a week and a half ago that this happened at, and
Mm-hmm.
like it's just when you start seeing that happen, and it kind of being this universal among kids, like you realize, oh, this is universal among humans. Like humans need
Mm-hmm.
to give themselves that perspective.
Yes. And that's it. Coaching adults, becoming a coach for adults has made me a much better parent because I'm like, whoa, I see where this is going. And I do the same thing. It's, oh, you're upset about that? Great. Stomp your feet, kick and scream, use all the words, let it out, feel the feelings because guess what? The feelings are legit, right? What we do with them may not be legit, but we're allowed to feel. And we forget that in this, culture of toxic masculinity, this culture of, I'm not going to go through the whole list, but in today's culture, where as a mom, I'm supposed to always know what to do, always have it prepared. My Pinterest cupcakes are supposed to be perfection when you've seen the results of some of mine. They're not. But that's okay. But it's what is this should mentality when innately we are supposed to feel because that's what keeps us alive, it's what keeps us connected. And we hide that part of ourselves, right? So one of the things that you and I are doing to kind of help push that out. So yes, we love our community, we love our schools, we love our kids and our people. We'll pick up the coats and the food and do all the drives and whatever. But we're trying to take that one step higher. And as we mentioned at the beginning, our Uniquely You founder, Angela DeMarco, joined us. Hello. Can you tell us about Uniquely You, Michael? Because you introduced me to this platform. I am super stoked about it. And I really, if I could have dreamed this, I would have loved to be the one to bring it to life. But I'm so grateful for Angela because I have, number one, fallen in love with her. And two, I appreciate the space. So tell us about Uniquely
It
You.
well, it does start with Angela, and
Mm-hmm.
that is kind of this amazing woman who I got to know working as a marketer.
Mm-hmm.
She is a wonderful creative, and was a creative director on a an ad campaign or several ad campaigns that I worked on, and we just kind of like after working together for a while connected on this and have stayed in touch and
I
watched
love it.
each other's journey, and um, both of us have had these kind of like incredible journeys over the last 10 years, and um, watched as all of these changes kind of landed to this, hopefully more positive place that we're both in right now. And she reached out to me and said, "Look, I've got this new thing, and while I work as a marketer, still I also work as a wellness coach and a personal trainer." And she has seen my ability to kind of like find the right thing for me, and Uniquely You is kind of the right thing for her, and um, I'm so glad as I started to hear about it. I was like, this is Michaela. Like this is just all over the place. This is Michaela. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I said, this is such a great opportunity because it's not like those master classes where you are listening to somebody who maybe is not as connected into real life. All of the U instructors are coming from their own perspective, and really able to craft a workshop around something that they actually feel deeply that they can teach about. So mine
There's lots
is
of categories like School of Thrivelihood, School of Empowerment, like a health and nutrition one. So there's a variety of pillars under which you, me, and the neighbors can craft, and it's very professionally done, but can craft a curriculum to host on this platform. So tell us about yours,
So
which I'm
mine
excited to
is
take.
really about, finding what you love and doing it, and the varying spectrum of
Are you
what that
talking
means,
about like professionally or personally?
professionally and personally. And that actually is that balance that you have to find within a human being. So I really come from it because it's so universal from a career point of view. But realizing that I went from a full-time job into kind of a consultancy part-time, and then on the other side working in this very unique like gym environment, and finding the whole of myself out of that and saying, you know what, I really like this. Like, this is the weirdest combination of anything. Like, I market kids books, and then I teach 80, 65 to 75-year-olds for an hour a week in exercise. Like, it's just, it's not something, again, as we go back to my 16-year-old self who was going to be an engineer, would have ever said, I want to put together big events for children's books, and I also want to teach silver sneakers. Like, not possible. But those doors opened, and when they did, I was like, this adds something to me. I can add something back to the community in doing this work, but by doing it, I add to me. So I really take that process that I went through and say, what is it that I love about what I'm doing, and how can you apply that to your life? And then that how. So there's two parts. The first is the identification, and that's the first session, and the second is using that how. And then in the meantime, I actually challenge people to make their own masterclass. And that masterclass can be something like completely crazy, but like, give me just an elevator pitch on what your masterclass would be about, and share something about yourself in that. So I just like, I picked random people in my life, and I said, oh, well, their masterclass would be this and that, and they weren't. It wasn't anything that actually like had to be super serious, and that's what I want to get people into, is finding those deep down things that, like, when you take the barriers off of your thinking as far as career,
Right.
where can you go with it? Like, where can you have a little fun and like make yourself bigger and better because of it?
Right. And still have all the things, right? Like, and that's telling your 16-year-old self, that version of Michael, that you can come back as anything you want to be. Just let it be you. Let it make you happy, right? You can go get, and I love your story because it's such a highlight on our woes of, you go to school, you go to college, you get married, you get the career, and then what? Then you get, anxiety and ulcers and pills and food and, all the different negative things that we don't want, because we're living out of the things that are authentic to us. And that's really what I love about Uniquely You, is yes, they have criteria, but anyone can go on with one of those master classes. And if I wanted to teach very passionately about a masterclass on finding the perfect water bottle to suit your lifestyle and needs, I could probably do that, right?
Yeah.
Because
I think about that. So David is the one who just kind of like sticks out to me all the time, because he teaches
David O'Rogan or
yes,
Reagan,
he teaches on communication, and how, like, almost, I don't want to say like blunt communication, but like very, very honest communication is what we are lacking, and really the key to success. And then I watch his communications, and I'm like, oh, he lives that. Like, when and so Angela just mentioned Dana there, but like David and Dana talking together is just like, it is this magical experience of just like two humans who just get how to communicate and like don't really give a damn about whether anyone is judging how they're communicating at all.
Well, and I mean, but let's be uniquely you. Let's do what feels right in your way and move past the other BS, right? Like my Cuddle Talk podcast with them, I mean, I was vibrating after an hour conversation with Dana and Angela. So if y'all haven't checked that out, go on in. It's linked in my bio. But it was exceptional. I had to call my coach and be like, "Can you talk me down from this? Because I am all over it, right? Coach has a coach. Coaches need coaches. All people need people, right? But so, and I'm doing mine on kind of like the next aligned with that, I would say. But it's the first is what are you tolerating? And it is that question of what's bothering you. And if it's your career, let's shake it up a little bit.
Yeah.
If it's your marriage, well, let's figure out why, right? I mean, you and I have talked about marriage. It's not easy. And if we just sit there and say the other person's an a-hole or whatever, well, we're only dealing with a small portion of the issue. And that's where we've talked about this because you and I have had to help each other through sometimes. And to go back to your story about Pop-Up, right? That's what you call your grandfather?
Yeah.
It's having people around to watch and see. I love that my children are watching Michael Strouse. I love that we get to watch each other. I love that we get to learn from each other because my life is exponentially better for it. And I know that whether it's me and you together, just you out in the world, us with Uniquely You, we are doing great things to grow, change, and serve. And a lot of my fuel comes from my people. So I'm deeply grateful to you and all of my people, but I certainly love the partnership that we've created and the way that we support one another. I love that you're my husband, my gay husband, because it's my, like, it's just so precious to me. And I can't wait to see what we do next. I will forever remain curious about what great things we'll create and do together. But if people want to follow along to what you're doing, where can they look, or what would you like them to know about you to part with and try to make their little worlds a little better?
I would love them to continue to watch, you know, my life unfold on my Instagram. It is Strouse Couture, as you're probably seeing.
Feeling magical.
It is all, feeling magical. I wish you could see the bottom half of that shirt, which is also stabby, because it is it's a unicorn.
I'm here. I'm on a call, baby.
and that is life right there. But it is like that's the authenticity that like I really want to be out there in the world living. And I hope I kind of like I'm not always the best poster, but I do post with a lot of authenticity to what is not only happening in my life, but also what is there. And you'll see like my weight loss journey, you'll see my parenting journey.
Oh, we didn't get to talk about a lot of things.
Yeah, there's a ton of different things on there. And you know, also you'll see just random pictures of me and my kids with planes and like that.
They're so beautiful. It's such a beautiful family. And really when we talk about our precious little community, and I knew this moving in, but we so desperately lack diversity. And that's always been the case. That was the case for 16-year-old Michael, 16-year-old Michaela. And we're starting to see that more, but your family is a truly beautiful representation of what that means. And to do it with such commitment and integrity, and to not be afraid to stand up for it. It's inspirational, 110%. And I know I learned from it. Your stories, the way you keep us engaged and connected to politics and culture and just the beat of the times, it's a really important thing. And if people aren't having that exposure to whether it's, you know, the LGBTQ community, if it's any unseen community, find people that can expose you. There are so many people to follow on social media just to get an idea, even if you don't understand it and like it, just to get exposure and to gain some perspective on what our neighbors are going through, what our kids are going to be going through and need to experience without mommy telling them what to think and feel.
And that's exactly right. I mean, I'm lucky. I've got Vinny, who brings me all the Chinese in the world, and and
I love
although
it.
he never cooks,
Yeah, you got to know
and
limits, you know?
and then my kiddos, like I have to look at I have to look at the world through this very different lens because of them. And how lucky can you be to have someone give you that perspective? Like it is a gift. It really is to help to understand another human being.
But it's
And
also a gift to know you're receiving a gift, right? So many people are offered the opportunity, invited to the table, and you're accepting the invitation. To go back to the very beginning, you're opening the door and saying, let's see what's behind there, because most likely for you, you're looking for someone to help, someone to serve, someone to nourish and nurture. Um, but I'll go back to what I said about that in the beginning. It takes courage. And I appreciate that you can continue to dig into that courage, and that the way that you give sustains your desire. I'm better because of you. Our community is better because of you. My kids are better because of you. And whatever you got to do, my friend, keep doing it. Whatever you need, I will help you. I will fill your cup, because
let
the
me
world needs
not
more
sit in front of
Michael.
a green wall again. She's making me blush. I'm making all the Christmas happen.
And for the record, none of y'all can have him because he's mine. He belongs here in our rocky soil. But at the end of the day, you said, like, when I first talked to you about this little podcast Instagram series thing I'm doing, you said ours will be called Pride and Joy. And I really want to thank you for holding that and sticking to it and keeping me as a participant on that journey. And for those of you who aren't actively, thinking outside of the box, reach out to us. We've got books, we've got conversations. You can join us in a conversation and we will help you understand whatever it is you need perspective on.
There are corner tables down at Bell's that just
wait for
are
us.
calling for an evening
Mm-hmm.
out. Like,
it's one of our favorite date nights. So listen, Michael Strouse and all the things, you continue to impress. I cannot wait to take your class on Uniquely You. I can wait till I'm old enough to take your silver sneakers class. I'm still trying to cover my silver, so we're just going to go with that. But I love you dearly, and the way that you bring your light to the world makes all of us better. And I just thank you. What would your takeaway be for today? What can we leave our friends with?
Open the door. That when you have that opportunity to see something on the other side, open it. You might not always take away the most, but just having that perspective and knowing that there's an opportunity, you should open yourself to it.
Yeah. I'm usually not a fan of saying should, but in this case I agree, because the staying curious, you have no idea what or who you're turning away from when you walk past the door, right? So doors are knocking, friends. Go answer them. And whatever you do, please make it a great day, because you do have a choice in how that goes. And just remember, what you thought as a 16-year-old is probably not true. Stay curious, my friends. All right. Much love, Michael. Thanks, y'all, for joining us. We'll catch you next time on And All the Things. Take care, friends.